All right, are we able to get started? Well, good evening. This is going to be a new experience. As you may know, the city charter provides that the mayor does 8 community meetings in the course of a year. I enjoy them very much. We do one that's citywide and 7, one in each council district, usually in a church. And I learn a great deal by being in the neighborhoods and hearing the issues that are there. This is going to be a little bit different. We've got a means of, you can sit at home and ask questions via the internet, and we're going to see how that works. I understand it works just fine at city council meetings. This is going to be my first experience. But if you haven't been to one of these before, I'm going to talk for 15 or 20 minutes about some issues that I'd like to talk about, and then we'll take questions not just on the things that I raise, but also anything that's on your mind. And maybe, John, if we could get a water here somewhere before too long, I'll probably need it. So let's start with what I think we always have to stay focused on, and that's COVID-19. What we did as a city to knock this down was remarkable. It's drawn a lot of national attention. Back in April, when we had upwards of 250 people a week dying, it seemed overwhelming, and all of us lost people close to us. Now we've been losing about 3 to 5 people a week, which is still too many, but we have made remarkable progress, and it's been completely a function of the commitment of the people of the city of Detroit. But let me show you what's going on, because you're hearing about the surge, and in Florida, in Texas, Arizona, it's been surging, but it's also been surging in other parts of Michigan, and now it's starting to come back to the Midwest. And I want to show you exactly what is happening in the city of Detroit. And I've been saying this for weeks. When you go out in the suburbs, you see people out mixing without masks. I see far more masks on people in the city of Detroit, and it's paying off, although it seems like we're getting a little bit lax lately, and we've got to stick to that commitment. So, the COVID surge that you've been reading about, is there a surge in Detroit? Let me show you the report that I look at every single day. Every hospital in this city reports on its patients every day. Number of patients in the hospital for COVID, whether they're in the emergency room or they're in a bed. At its peak, we had more than 800 people with COVID in hospitals in the city. On ventilators, people who were very ill and in danger of not making it. We had 259 patients on vents. You remember there was conversation at the time where we're going to have enough vents. And on that particular day, the hospitals tested 126 new positive patients. At that point, the city of Detroit had almost 30% of the COVID positive patients in the state. And there was a lot of talk about, well, it's Detroit, and that's going to happen, as if we couldn't fight back. But of course, the people of this city cared enough about each other that the commitment to social distancing, masking, and testing changed this in a way faster than any place else in the country. So by June 15th, we were down to 168 people in the hospital. We were down to just 18 on ventilators. It was remarkable. And we had about 13 new positive cases. Now, since June 15th, you've been hearing about this surge, and it's true. There's a lot of surge in the south. There's a lot of surge in other parts of Michigan, including in our suburbs. But on July 1st, we only had 154 patients in the hospital, only 12 on vents. We did have more positive cases, but they weren't soaring like the rest of the state. But it's something we have to be aware of. Now, yesterday's numbers, 157 patients in the hospital. You can see in the last month or so, that number has not changed. The issues they're seeing in other places are not here. The number on vents have continued to drop slightly, but we did see 31 new cases, except in April we were 30% of the cases in the state. Now we've been less than 5% of the cases in the state. In other words, we've got 8% of this state's population. We've only got 5% of the cases. It means Detroit has a significantly lower infection rate than the rest of Michigan. Now, nobody should be patting themselves on the back and say this is over. If you saw today, Dr. Birx pointed out she has just declared Cleveland, Columbus, and Indianapolis as cities where you are seeing resurgence. They aren't that far away from us. And this is purely a function of distancing and masks. We're not seeing these cases spread in our restaurants or in our nail salons or in our places of business where people are behaving appropriately. But these large gatherings in backyards and in neighborhoods, I think you can think about it this way. In Detroit today, probably 1 out of 50 or 1 out of 100 people has COVID, somewhere between 1 and 2%, a lot lower than it was. If you're in a gathering of 50 people at work and they're all in masks and they're distanced, or in an auto plant, your chances of getting it are extremely low. But if you're in a backyard or street party with 50 people crowding together, drinking and talking loudly with the droplets in the air, the chances of 10 people coming away with the disease are very high. And so this isn't going away. We have to wear our mask, I'm going to say, for another 6 or 8 months. I don't know exactly when the vaccine is going to get here. There's lots of promising developments, but to both solve the vaccine, make the vaccine, and distribute the vaccine is an enormous logistical operation. And so far as a country, we haven't demonstrated any ability to execute anything nationally on this. And so we just need to make a commitment that for the next 6 or 8 months, we're going to wear our masks, we're going to distance, but the city of Detroit right now is doing better than the rest of the state, nothing to relax about. Otherwise, Dr. Birx won't just be saying Cleveland and Columbus are back, she'll be saying Detroit is back. We just need to stick with what we have been doing. We've now completed 60,000 COVID tests, just the city of Detroit itself, not counting anybody else. And if you've seen the video from Texas and Florida, people in line in their cars for 6 or 7 hours, we owe an enormous debt of gratitude to Dan Gilbert and Quicken, who overnight set up that appointment system. And everybody who's been out there knows you're through there in under a half an hour. And today, Monday through Friday, everybody in this city can get tested without a prescription. All you got to do is call up, make an appointment. We'll get you the appointment the next day, and you can find out for sure, because half the people that have COVID today do not have symptoms. A major part of why you're wearing the mask is because there is a chance you have it and you don't know. And so it's to protect other people in the event that you're positive. But our testing program is continuing to work well. I'd like to talk a little bit about City Council's action this week, which I think has a chance to change the future of our neighborhoods. And on Tuesday, Council decided to put on the ballot Proposal N, the $250 million blight bonds. And now this decision is in the hands of you, the voters of Detroit. It's your decision, it's your future, it's your commitment. And over the next 3 months, we're going to have a conversation. And at the end of it, you're going to make a decision. This is something that I believe in and I think will make the neighborhoods better, or something that I don't. And let me tell you where we stand today, and I hope you'll stay tuned throughout the entire process so you make an informed decision. But this isn't new. This is a Detroit Free Press from July of 1965, where the city was talking about children being threatened by vacant houses, and they were going to have it wrapped up in a year. And here we are, 55 years later? Did I do the math right? I hope maybe, it's been a lot of years, whatever it's been. Since 1965, city officials haven't come up with an answer. Now, it hasn't been for a lack of effort in the last few years. We got $265 million in federal demolition grants from the Obama administration. I spent a lot of time at the White House and a lot of time at the Treasury Department, and 4 different times the feds added to what we were doing. whatever the local coverage was, nationally, Detroit was considered remarkable in the speed with which we got this done. And with their help, we got 21,000 abandoned houses down in 6 years. The federal rules had us do them in concentrated areas, as people in this neighborhood know. Everybody knows whether you were in the hardest hit neighborhood where you got the demolition or you were not and you had fewer demolitions. Those who were in the hardest hit areas that got the demolitions, these are the changes in the property values over a couple of years. And the dark grains were people who saw their property values increase 50 to 100% in 2 to 3 years. People in the red areas actually saw it go down. But you can track the areas where the demolitions were concentrated. And when you take out the 2 burned out houses on your block, people start to fix up the other houses and your property values go up. The question becomes, what about the rest of the city? If you do not believe in 2 Detroits, then we have an obligation to get to every single neighborhood. Well, I was deeply appreciative of President Obama's commitment. The federal rules had 4 restrictions I never could get lifted, and I went to Treasury 2 or 3 times trying to get them to change the rules, and they felt their hands were tied because of the act of Congress. First, not a dollar could be used for renovations. And I went to D.C. and said, look, if it's costing us $15,000 to take a house down, what if we put $15,000 in to secure it and get it started? Now we have a rehabbed house instead of a demolished house. Why can't we use the money that way? They said you make perfect sense, but the Congressional Act doesn't allow it. So that was an enormous frustration that we could not move on rehabbing houses nearly as fast as we wanted to. Second, the Fed said the city can't run the contracts. In fact, before I got here, the emergency manager designated that it would be done by the land bank. And the land bank did their best, but the land bank had 4 employees. They were not geared up to handle $265 million in purchases. It should have been done by the city procurement department. We have not had problems there and overseen by city council, but that was a federal requirement. Third, they would not allow us to give preference to Detroit contractors. I wanted to see Detroit companies doing the work to put the money back into Detroit. The feds take the position that it's federal money, it belongs to all the taxpayers in America. You can't give a local preference, and it meant we couldn't give a preference to hiring Detroit residents. And so while I was deeply appreciative of the commitment to get the houses down, this is not the program that City Council and I would have set up if we'd had our own decision. Now, the federal money's gone. I think the last 3 houses are coming down this week. Federal program's over, and nobody else is coming to help us. And so we have a decision. Are we satisfied with the progress we've made in the neighborhoods, or are we going to demand something more? And so since last November, as you know, City Council didn't like my plan last November. I said, okay, that was my fault. It's my job to propose a plan that they support. It's not their fault that the plan wasn't good enough. And we sat down and we said, how do we fix these things? And this week we reached agreement. Here's where we stand today as a city. We still have 22,000 abandoned houses left in the city. But here's the interesting thing. 8,000 of those houses are structurally sound. They can still be saved. You see them all over the city. Brick houses, solid wood houses. They got plywood in the windows. They are structurally sound. People left this city so fast, they left behind houses that we could have families in. How much better would the housing conditions be in the city if we had 8,000 more houses available in the neighborhoods? 14,000 have to be demolished. And so after the conversations with Councilman Andre Spivey and the rest of the group, they said to me, look, we think the first priority ought to be, let's save every house we can save. And we looked at that and we said, that makes a lot of sense. Let's do a bond issue where our first priority is every single house that can be saved, we save. And then with the money that's left, we can take down 8,000 houses. It's not going to be all 14,000, but we're making choices based on the money we have. And if things go well in Washington in November, maybe we can get some help to finish the job, but this will at least allow us to get going. And so this is Council's point. Why don't we have houses like this filled with plywood? Why isn't the priority fixing them up and I was convinced they were absolutely right. So here's what we're doing. Proposal N, you're going to get a chance to vote on, is based on 6 principles. 1, we're going to save all 8,000 houses that can be saved. And if the houses need to be secured, we're going to move in quickly and secure the exteriors so they're preserved. And I'll show you in a minute how we're going to do that. 2, what we don't need to secure the good houses, we're going to start demolishing the other houses. And we think we will get about 8,000 more demolished over the next 2 to 3 years. We have brought the demolition program back under city government. LaJuan Counts is running the program. I think everybody has just got an outstanding feeling about the job that she is doing. And so our procurement department in Boise Jackson are doing the bids. City Council is reviewing every contract. And the land bank, and nobody's happier than the land bank, is out of the demolition business. And we can start a fresh page. We're going to give preference to Detroit companies. We can do this because these are city funds. And the law allows us to give preference to Detroit companies when we bid with city funds, which means we'll get Detroit companies doing the work, and we can give preference to companies that hire Detroiters. And we will impose the executive order that you hire 51% of the hours worked on these projects be Detroiters, or you are going to have to pay into our training programs so we have more Detroiters ready to work. And finally, there's going to be no increase in your taxes. And I'll talk to you about how we can sell these bonds without raising your tax rate from the rate that you're paying this year. We think these 6 principles are our best chance to change the condition of our neighborhoods. So let me tell you about each of them. The 8,000 abandoned houses across the city that can be saved and renovated, look at these pictures. These are all examples. These are houses that the land bank has today that we believe can be saved and renovated. There's 8,000 like this. Do we really want to let them deteriorate to the point where they can't be saved? And we've already saved thousands. And if you haven't done it, go to our website, buildingdetroit.org, and check it out, because this is what the land bank should be doing. They shouldn't be knocking things down. They should be taking the property and turning it back to our citizens, essentially putting themselves out of business. And so let me show you what we've done, because we have already renovated thousands. People say, and when I first started doing this, people laughed. There were national jokes. Yeah, who's going to bid on an abandoned house in the city of Detroit? Like you wouldn't want it. But here's a house on Tuller in the Fitzgerald neighborhood. Here's how it looked 2 years ago, and here's how it looks today. And this is a house on Lilac in the same area. And this is how it looks today. And this house down the street from the other house, this is something you drive by and say, you got to demolish for that, right? It can't be saved, except the bones were solid. Here's how that house looks today. Aren't we better off with 8,000 families in these neighborhoods, in these houses, than just doing demolitions? And that is what we are saying in Proposal N. We are going to take every house in this city that people, when they were departing from Detroit in such a hurry, left behind. We want to bring those back. We have them all tracked. These green dots are the 8,000 houses that we've inspected that we believe today can be rehabbed. And you can see they tend to be clustered. You tend to have blocks where you got 3, 4, 5 houses on a block. And if you don't attack them all at once, who's going to come in and take one house when the other 4 look like anybody can go in and out of them? You've got to take the whole area at the time. Here's something that I don't have to explain to any Detroiter. We lose 1,000 good houses every year to deterioration, whether it's vandals, whether it's arson, whether it's the weather. 1,000 vacant houses that could be saved every year deteriorate to the point we've got to demolish them. And I don't know how many neighborhood groups I've been with when they point to the house across the street and said, a year or 2 ago we could have saved it, now look at it. There was a fire in it, there's a hole in the roof, it's flooded. And it is a heartbreaking experience for people. In many cases, we've had people live in the same neighborhood for 2, 3 generations. And to watch the houses of families and friends that they knew just deteriorate. So this house over on Clover Lawn looked like this in August of 2018. That is a house that you could have sold and you could have renovated. But because nobody secured the house, less than a year later, here's how it looked. burned out and had to be demolished. This house on Gardner could have been saved in 2018. Several months later, this is how it looked. Last August, this house on Hamburg was structurally sound and could have been saved. It's long gone right now. This is what is happening 1,000 times a year. A house that can be saved is rotting to the point or being destroyed to the point we lose it. And so we said, could we step in and secure all of these houses? So how do you do that? Well, we're going to go in to the houses that need to be secured. The first thing we're going to do is clean them out. And this is typical. Anybody who's been in these neighborhoods knows this. Here's what we're going to do. First thing we'll do is we'll clean them completely out. And there are lots of things that are found in these houses, as the neighbors have shared with me. After we clean them out, we're going to secure them. Now, we went through this city and Lawan Counts boarded up the vacant houses, and that was a step in the right direction. But plywood can be pulled off, and I don't know how many times I've heard from neighbors, drug dealers are back in. Somebody was in cooking in the house last night, they pulled the plywood off. We've been back and reboarded some houses 5 and 6 times. Plywood isn't good enough if you're going to secure these houses and save them. And so we are going to go to a product like SecureView, which is essentially a bulletproof type plastic. I'm not the scientist, but it's on there very securely. If you can see the reflection in the window there, but that keeps people from being able to come in and out. There's a padlock on it that you basically have to melt off if you want to get in. Or you can use the reinforced steel program like this. So we are going to go through every house that needs it. And we are going to secure these houses so they can be saved. So now somebody feels comfortable, I can buy that house. I can put a furnace in. I don't have to worry about somebody stealing it. I can start working on the plumbing. And then we're going to secure the roofs. I don't know how many houses I've seen with basements filled with water because of a big hole in the roof and the rain came in and destroyed an otherwise structurally sound house. So we'll go through every house that needs it and bring in rehab companies from the city to secure these. Then we're going to partner with our neighborhood groups, our community development organizations, and they're going to have the time to renovate the house. It'll be easier to find buyers. We sell these houses every day. If the house is secure, it is a whole lot easier to get somebody to take a chance on it than if it's open to the elements. The first thing they've got to do is replace the roof. They can put in those kinds of things, and we're going to come up with a program, and I'm working now with City Council on it, to give the neighbors preference to buy the house. If you've got a family member who wants to come into the neighborhood, or you're renting in the neighborhood and you'd like to buy, we want to keep Detroiters in these houses. That's what we'll do to the ones that can be saved. As we know all too well, there's another 8,000 houses that look like this. And those are going to have to be demolished, and we believe we can get those down in the next 3 years. Save the ones we can save, get rid of the ones we can't save. And a lot of times, you get rid of 2 houses like this on a block, and people will spend the money to fix up the others. We want Detroiters to buy the houses and become homeowners. This, at one time, Detroit had the highest rate of homeownership of any city in the country. In the last 10 years, we've gone way too far in the way of rentals, but we're starting to see that shift back. And so if you go to buildingdetroit.org, and we're selling houses every single day, we're selling 200 a month. There's something about what's happened with COVID. People are actually spending time in buying more now than they were a year ago. But you can see this house on Joanne, or on Van Steuben. It says, I think it actually is Joanne. Van Steuben's the neighborhood. It went for $22,500. This house on Rossini, you can get a sense of it, sold for $17,000. A lot of our houses are like this one on Petoskey that went for $1,000. There's 200 a month that are being sold, and we're seeing more and more people are saying, wait a minute, I'm paying $1,000 a month in rent. By the time I figure out what I could put into the house, what I can pay in taxes, I can own my own place for $600 or $800 a month. And so these 200 houses a month, we're doing surveys on this, 79% of the houses sold this year have been bought by Detroit residents. Most were bought by renters who want to own and live in the house. They don't want to fool around with the landlord and the rent. And so there's going to be an opportunity when we secure another 8,000 houses for the renters in this city to say, you know what, I can go back to being a homeowner, and I can have a house to pass on to my kids and to my grandkids. And today, if you saw the announcement, TCF Bank, it's been an extraordinary commitment they've made to the city. They're building a 21-story headquarters downtown and moving their folks here. They announced a $1 billion loan commitment to minority communities, both to minority and women-owned businesses, but also down payment assistance for people who want to buy a house. And so if you think I can't make the down payment, you should check out the TCF program. This is how we're going to have to do it. It's not going to be one solution. We're going to get these 8,000 houses occupied. It's going to be everybody working together. This is something that's frustrated me enormously with the federal program, is we have great contractors in this city, including several black-owned contractors, who we could not treat the way we felt they should be treated under the federal rules. And so we are going now to do what we can do. City ordinances allow preferences for businesses that have headquarters here, businesses that are based here, businesses that have 51% Detroiters who work for them. All of those companies get preference on a bid price. So we can use our money to put into our companies who are hiring our residents. And we are very confident that more than 50% of all the work in this $250 million bond issue will go to Detroit companies. And this week, there's no doubt what turned the tide with City Council is something I've never seen before. But a coalition of black Detroit contractors, more than 20, came together. And they looked at the rules and they said, these rules are fair. We can win. We can grow. We can build wealth in this city. And so the contractors organized their own coalition, held their own press conference, went to council repeatedly and said, we support this plan. For the first time, we are seeing a process where Detroit money will be used in a way that we have real opportunity. They're still going to have to do the job. They're still going to have to win the bid. But there are a number of preferences built in here that a good Detroit company is going to grow extremely quickly. And then we also have made a commitment that 51% of the workers on the job are going to be Detroiters. The executive order we've applied in the past, or they have to pay into a training fund. And the Detroit contractors stood up, every single one of them, and said, we'll honor that pledge. We can hire Detroiters. These are jobs that we can train Detroiters for, and Detroit at Work, that is doing such an outstanding job with Nicole Sherrod-Freeman, has agreed to run training and placement programs so that as these companies are growing and hiring more people, we've got the training program that's recruiting and training Detroiters to fill them so the Detroiters can go to work. And if you think about what COVID has done to the unemployment rate and what it's likely to do for the next couple of years as we recover, this is an enormous economic opportunity for our residents if we do it correctly. Now, how do you get to do all this without your taxes going up? And this is something that would have been inconceivable a few years ago. But since we came out of bankruptcy, the city of Detroit has had 7 bond rating upgrades. I'm not sure we ever had 7 bond rating upgrades at any point, but that's how fast our financial management has improved, and Detroit City Council deserves enormous credit for this. We haven't been fighting with them about this. Council has been committed to make sure the state of Michigan never comes in here and takes over this city again. Standard & Poor's put out a national statement when we responded to the COVID deficits and dealt with them so quickly and gave us credit. And we believe, based on the input we're getting, that Detroit is going to be very well received in the bond market. We've paid down more than $180 million in bonds since we came out of bankruptcy. Some of it we paid down ahead of schedule. And so we're in a different situation, which means that we can sell these new bonds. We have the capacity. And your taxes won't go up higher than they are now, but we will push payments out over more years. So if you've ever done renovations to your home and refinanced your house, spread it out over more years but paid the same amount, it's the same principle. Your property taxes will stay the same as they are now, but you're making a decision as a Detroiter that we're committing to pay those bonds off over a longer period of time, and you have to make a decision. Is the rebuilding of the neighborhoods worth that? And so we're asking you to decide on November 3rd that right now we have 1,000 houses a year that go from good shape to bad, or we can take these houses, these 8,000 houses, and turn them into something that looks like that. And so I hope we make a decision, because there's been too many generations of children in the city that have grown up thinking blight is normal. And we just can't tolerate that anymore. At this point, we're going to take questions. We're going to go to 8:30, and the instructions are here. These are the options for how you raise your hand, or if you're on the telephone, press *9 on your phone. State your name, and Malia Howard will recognize you. Ask your question. I'd like to get through as many as possible. So if you have a question, please try to ask it concisely. If you just want to make a statement, you'll be given up to 60 seconds in order to get through as many folks as we can. We're going to have 7 more of these over the next 6 weeks. Next week, rather than me do the same presentation each time, you're going to get a chance to see some of our leaders who will be presenting. And a week from now, Chief Craig will be here, and he will be talking about the way that we intend to respond to the upsurge we've seen in violence. And the chief would be here tonight, but he is dealing with the shooting scene right now that I know he will update the community on before the evening is over. But you'll have a full opportunity next week if you want to ask a question. Deputy Chief Bedison is here and will answer it. And most of the department heads are here. So you can ask any question you want. And if I don't know the answer, there's a good chance somebody here has it. So let's try this together and see how it works, and see if we can take our first question.
Have 9 callers. First caller, Eileen. Please unmute yourself and address the meeting.
Do we have technology I can see the callers, or is this all on a telephone?
This is Zoom.
It's Zoom, okay.
Yes. I've been meeting with the Gordy Howard Committee to change the rendering of the bridge, pedestrian bridge that they want to build in front of my house. And I've been meeting with Eva Torres, and she tells me that this is beyond her authority. They're trying to put a 16-foot ramp in front of concrete in front of my home, going all the way down the side of Junction to 4th Street. And it covers my residence and my businesses, mine and Mike Miles. And there's also a safety factor where people will be mugged the way this bridge is looking, and it's going to affect our business, and it doesn't let us park into our properties. I invite you, Mr. Duggan, Mayor, to visit our community blocks so you can see firsthand the situation.
I will, and I don't know if we have the ability to do it. I don't know if Arthur Jemison, if we have the planner from Southwest who would know that specific. I had not heard that issue. I haven't dealt with the design issues in about a year. But I will come out and look at it. I don't know if I have any influence over the International Bridge Authority, but what you're describing doesn't sound fair. Arthur, do you have any knowledge on this, or do we just need to get the planner from District 6 and go down and visit? Okay, so do we have a way of getting this caller's name and number so I could arrange to go see this?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I'm going to come out and see you in the next week, and I'll bring the planner with me, and I don't know whether we can do anything or not, but I will come see it, and I'll do what I can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Eva Torres. You rock, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right.
Now have 13 callers. The next caller is JJ. Please identify yourself. You have been allowed to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Well, my question is, why wasn't the land bank or anybody else making sure these houses didn't rot in the first place? My understanding is there was some budget money. So it seems to me that the land bank and city have just kind of let a bunch of these assets rot. So why, that just seems a little late. The other thing is there's no real clear commitment to be selling land to Detroiters. I don't see that. It's a very vaguely worded proposal, so I think N means no. But here's my question. I've listened to the budget committee several times recently, and what I'm hearing is that we're in trouble in 2024. We don't have money to make some of the retiree payments because during the bankruptcy, the wrong numbers were crunched. The wrong actuarial numbers were crunched. And now it seems like there's this drive for development, and Detroiters have not been treated very well. So what can be done about the wrong numbers were crunched? People walked away with millions, and yet the wrong numbers were crunched. We got a problem. And what real guarantees will there be? Because Detroiters are already treated unfairly by the land bank. Some people get their silent, some people don't. I've had to work with them. They won't let people buy the houses next to them. So how can we believe you now, given the past?
Okay, well, let's see if I can keep track of all those questions. First, the question is, what was the land bank going to do? As you've seen, we went through and boarded up 21,000 houses in this city. That was an expenditure of several $1 million that took us 2.5 years. Had we wanted to secure those houses, it would have been a cost of well in excess of $100 million. And I think, as I said during the presentation, the federal government refused to let us spend a nickel on that purpose. So we had no source of money to deal with it. The land bank doesn't have houses because they want them. The land bank has houses because the treasurer took them and they were sitting there vacant. As far as the retiree protection fund, what you're saying is right. And as you might remember, the governor appointed an emergency manager who agreed on a pension system that I was not terribly happy about, but we had a shortfall of about $130 million that was disclosed to us within 2 months of the emergency manager leaving. But this is, again, why we got 7 credit rating upgrades. Rather than complain about it, we've had so many businesses and jobs come back that our income tax revenues ran way ahead of what we expected. And City Council made a commitment to put $130 million aside in a retiree protection fund. And we have been paying in $20, $30, $40 million a year each year. It wasn't touched in the last budget cut, because I'm going to make sure our retirees never have to take the kind of concession they had to take in that bankruptcy. And so the reason that we've got 7 credit rating upgrades is because instead of complaining about it, we rolled up our sleeves, we put money in the retiree protection fund, and we're continuing to fund the retirees. And I give council enormous credit. Imagine the pressure council's under. Everybody's in front of you wanting this idea or that idea. To set aside $130 million for long-term pensions is a really politically courageous thing to do, and council has done it each and every year, I think unanimously in every case.
Next caller, Cindy, you can unmute yourself.
Cindy?
We'll come back. We'll go to the next caller. Camille, you're allowed to talk. Please unmute
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm here.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I just moved back to Detroit about a year ago because I saw the change in the city and wanted to make sure that I got some property so it can appreciate. So I appreciate all that. This question actually is not about the land bank. It's about statements that were made at the federal level. I just wanted to kind of get your initial response, and I know it'll be addressed in the future, but what is the initial response from the city about the comments that the federal police enforcement here in the city, with Detroit being named as one of those cities?
Yeah, Chief Craig and I have had lengthy conversations with federal law enforcement officials. They are fully in agreement with us that there is no justification for the Department of Homeland Security coming into this city to deal with the protesters. I think the Detroit Police Department has done an outstanding job. We have not had a single store looted. We have not had a fire. We did not call in the National Guard, one of the few cities in America that did not, and I thought the president's comments were unjustified, and I believe we have an understanding on that now, and I've been assured Homeland Security will not be coming to the city of Detroit. Now, there's a separate program in which the federal government does what they should be doing. That is, I would love to see the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms have more enforcement officers, because the number of illegal guns pouring into the city from across the country needs to be dealt with. If the president wants to send extra ATF agents to deal with illegal guns, they have our full support. If they want to bring in extra assistant U.S. attorneys to prosecute these individuals, they have our full support. And that's the conversation that Chief Craig and I are having. And based on that conversation, I'm confident as of today that the only federal help that will be coming will be on the law enforcement side. We will not see any Homeland Security officers dealing with protesters. We've been assured that will not happen.
One last follow-up to that.
Okay.
So if we're looking at ATF, are there going to be assurances put in place that people aren't randomly selected for that? Because I'm not a gun carrier, so I wouldn't expect to be pulled over. But I just, are there some things that are going to be put in place to make sure that it's not random and it's there's some reasonable belief that whoever it is needs to be checked into or followed up with?
Everybody has their own mission. Homeland Security is a separate federal cabinet department outside of the Justice Department. It's its own cabinet operation. But we have good working relationships with the federal agencies, with the FBI, with the DEA, with the U.S. Attorney. Matthew Schneider, the U.S. Attorney, comes every month to the ceasefire calling meetings with Chief Craig and me, where we talk to people involved in gang activity. We haven't been able to do them since March because of COVID, but they've been very effective to say, we don't want to arrest you. This is where we want to go. We've really been hurt by the fact we haven't been able to have those meetings the last 5 months. But we've got a good working relationship with our federal law enforcement partners. They were not the concern. I was deeply concerned at the suggestion we were going to see something here like Portland. And as I pointed out, there's been no attack on federal buildings. There's no legal justification whatever for Homeland Security to be here, and my understanding is that they have agreed with that decision.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cindy, you may.
I just want to urge people to listen to On Point Radio. It's a program, an NPR program. Every day they repeat it. It's so good. It's Megla Chakrabarty's usually on it from 10 to 12 in the morning on 101.9 and 8 to 10 at night on 101.9. And it's the most educational program. But what today they were talking about is these people that Trump has put into he appoints them temporary so they don't have to be approved.
Right.
But they are lying to people, and it's propaganda. They don't cite the law properly. She has people from Harvard Law School and people from all over the country. And it's a really dangerous time, I think, to even ask for them to come in at all. I mean, when I was in the World Trade Organization thing back in 1999, and there were some, they had these people that had black masks on break some
Your
windows.
time is up,
And
Cindy.
as soon as that happened, then it diverts the whole thing away from the real issues that we want. Police reform, we want the police to learn what the Constitution is and to convey
Time
it
is
to
up,
the
Cindy.
people and not have a police state. But that doesn't get discussed
Time is
once the
up.
property's stood.
And so you're absolutely right, and if you're not familiar with what the caller is saying, she's absolutely correct. There's a federal law, I can't recall the number of months, but the president is allowed to appoint somebody on an acting basis for 6 or 9 months before they have to be confirmed by the Senate. Otherwise, if you only name people as acting, you completely eliminate the legislative branch and their constitutional right to confirm appointments. And this administration has gone well beyond that period with acting directors. In fact, they've had some departments where one acting director exceeded the period, and then they put in a new acting director that exceeded the period. That's something that I know people will be litigating. I also think the better solution is to deal with that ourselves on November 3rd.
Next caller is Jennifer. You can unmute yourself. Jennifer, you may unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You can.
Okay, great. My name is Jennifer Hodges. I really like Proposal N, specifically around the workforce development and making sure that you're hiring contractors that work, that are Detroit-based. So I think that's excellent. My question is, how are you, or if you can talk more about how you're ensuring that the homes that are being repaired and rehabbed are available and available for the current community members, and that if there is any sort of priority or I would say plan put in place to ensure that the current residents or the current Detroit citizens are able to afford the homes that are being rehabbed.
So those are really good questions. Let me start with the first one. You can go right now onto buildingdetroit.org, and there's probably 100 or 200 houses that you have the opportunity to buy today. Nobody's keeping you from it. Nobody's holding it back. But we believe there will be far more houses that people will want when we secure them. And Council President Brenda Jones and I have been talking about this, been talking to a number of council members, and this is the reason you have the election on November 3rd, and this is the reason I say you should listen in the course of the conversation. But it's not my place to speak on my own, but I anticipate in the next 2 or 3 weeks, you will see City Council and I agree on a policy that will be publicized, and then you can evaluate for yourself if we have done enough. But we want to get Detroiters who are renting to be able to buy and move into their house and not deal with evictions anymore. That's our goal on this. And so I just say, stay tuned, and I think Council and I will have the answer to that question in a formal way in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Alfred, you are next. You may unmute yourself, Alfred.
Yeah, hey, Mayor Mike Duggan.
How are you?
Hi. I have a problem with the Black Lives Matter. Sometimes you know how to have to shoot a white person. It should not matter if you're white or black. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure I got every word of that, but I strongly support the central principles of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's long overdue, and I'm glad to see so much of America waking up to what is clearly right and finally dealing with this systemic racism in our criminal justice system. We got a long way to go, but there's more awareness than I've seen, and as long as the protesters are not vandalizing anything or attacking anybody, we've supported their right to protest because I think their message is extremely important.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Next is Sherry. You can unmute yourself, Sherry.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank you for the phenomenal job in responding to the pandemic. And I especially like to thank you for Ava Torres, because she has really been hands-on with our group, Midwest City Council Block Club. So we really appreciate your administration. Thank you.
Well, this is a good night for Eva. But usually when you name one of the district managers, they get nervous. So this is good. Thank you.
Alfred, you are next. Sorry. Sherry, you are next.
Did Sherry?
Oh, sorry.
Hi, I just spoke. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Sherry.
Okay.
Susan, you are next.
All right.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Susan, you got a question? Susan, I think you may be muted.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. We got you.
Okay. So, good evening.
Good evening.
When will we be able to see a head-to-head comparison between the crime rates associated with Project Greenlight businesses versus the crime rates associated with businesses that do not have Project Greenlight? I haven't seen those stats. I know about overall reductions in crime, but we haven't pinpointed exactly where those reductions are occurring, and that's important in order to evaluate the effectiveness of Project Greenlight.
So we don't have crime stats as specific as building by building, at least not without a great deal of detail, but here are the numbers that I know. The carjackings in this city, across the city, have dropped by 50% in the last 3 years since Greenlight started. There is no other explanation for that dramatic drop. As you've seen, we haven't seen other crimes drop anything like that, and we were so successful in basically making arrests every single time. But folks remember in this town, it wasn't very many years ago where you didn't want to stop for gas at night in the city of Detroit. And there's a lot of people in this city today that will only stop in the evenings at Greenlight locations. Here's the thing, Greenlight is paid for by the business owner. They're making a decision that their customers want it. And most business owners got Greenlight after their customers came and asked for it, and the public's making a decision whether they feel safe. So 700 businesses in this town have decided that their customers are safer. I think they will all tell you business jumped significantly after they put it in. We've had some places where the neighbors actually came out and picketed the party store, the gas station, until they put in Greenlight because there was so much difficulty. But I think the vast majority of people in this city support it, and I certainly support it.
Reverend Hardy, you're allowed to talk.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for having all of this information available to the citizens of Detroit. You all are appreciated. What does one do when they have a lot that's vacant next door? It's owned by someone that lives around the corner and it's overgrown. To whom do we report that to?
So you have a deputy, or you have a district inspector. Which city council district do you live in?
7.
Okay, so you have Mona Ali's your district manager. There is a district inspector. Do you know how to reach Mona?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we're going to take you off air and we're going to get your number, and Mona's going to call you. But there is a building safety engineering department inspector who is dedicated to enforcing the code on District 7. If that person has allowed the grass to be overgrown, if they've had junk on there that they haven't cleaned up, or otherwise not maintained the property, they'll come out and write them tickets. Now, if the person's in the neighborhood, they may be responsive. If the person lives in another state, sometimes that's a bigger challenge. But we will come out and do what we can. And if we can get your information offline, you'll hear from Mona, if not tonight, tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay.
KM, you are next.
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. I wanted to know how much of the money that comes from the Federal CARES Act, how much of it specifically is going into the renters assistance specifically?
All
And
right.
then when it comes to
Where's Arthur Jemison?
the funding that
All right. I've got the
Comes to the
expert
fund.
here, because you've gotten beyond my detailed knowledge, but Arthur Jemison knows everything about such things and has been driving this. Go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening. It would take me a couple of minutes to put together the final number, but I think it's approximately $6 or $7 million of the city's CARES Act funds that we've already received is going to be spent on rental assistance. There are other amounts that are dedicated to eviction defense, and then services being provided to seniors in affordable housing. But I think the number off the top of my head is approximately 6 million. Wayne Metro.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just couldn't find out how much was specifically going into renter assistance. So thank you for that. Also, how much of the funding from the governor's eviction diversion program is going into rental assistance?
I think approximately $8 million has been dedicated from the state to a series of organizations like Southwest Solutions and UCHC and Wayne Metro. Wayne Metro is the place that I would go first to get those resources.
Yeah, so you're saying that 8 million just for rental assistance, that's what you believe?
That's my recollection, yes, from the state.
All right, thank you.
Into those, directly to those organizations.
We'll find out about the services.
I go to the Wayne Metro website. That's the place, they received the first amounts of money for this, maybe 2 months ago, and you will get a live person on the phone there who will help you learn about the programs they have, fill out forms, and then, if necessary, go to some of the other organizations.
Thank you.
What?
Malcolm, you are next.
Hey, how you doing, Mike Duggan? My name is Malcolm Parker. I'm a contractor in the city of Detroit, and I was very interested in becoming a contractor, to preserve the homes. And I was just wondering, how would I do that?
So do we have anybody here from DEGC or Luan? Luan's here. Luan, can you answer that question? Go ahead, got it. So Luan Counts, who is running the program, is going to tell you the best way to get an introduction to this.
Okay, thank you for that.
You would definitely have to register for the program. We can put you in contact with the Office of Procurement, because there's going to be a series of information that you're going to have to provide for them to actually formally submit for the program. But if you can, we'll get your information and I'll reach out to you directly so I can put you in contact with those people.
Okay, I really appreciate that, Mel. Thank you.
No problem.
I hope some point down the road you call and tell me how that worked out. We had about 3 years ago a contractor fair that Reverend Jesse Jackson came to town and helped sponsor in order to make sure particularly African-American owned contractors would get a chance. And a fella who was an engineer working down on construction in Houston by the name of Brian McKinney came up to the conference and became convinced he could start a company. And he started a company called Guyanga from scratch, and he now has 50 employees, nearly all of whom are Detroit residents based here in the city. So
Yes,
if
sir.
you have the drive in the organization, he went from not being in the business to, he's so big, he's not just getting city business. When DTE did that huge demolition of the Connor Creek Power Plant for the FCA plant, 3 years in, he was a part of that major demolition. This isn't just work for the city. This is get your company up and running, learn the skills, and then take on a lot more. So I hope to hear from you in the future.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate it. I'm a contractor actually right now, and I clean up. I go around my neighborhood, the Pingree Park area in Detroit. I just purchased a home in this area. I go around cleaning up the vacant lots, cutting grass, just clean up the neighborhoods on the outside. It costs, but I do exactly what I can. For right now, it's like a nonprofit at the moment, but I'm, very interested in becoming part of the team. So I appreciate, you taking my call.
You're in a great neighborhood with a lot of upside, and so I hope you'll pursue this, and we will help you every way we can.
And I thank you.
Jermaine, you are next. Jermaine, you are next. We'll move on and come back to Jermaine. Renard, you are next.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Duggan. My name is Renard Mashunsky. I'm a transit justice organizer and activist with the Detroit People's Platform, and I live in District 2. I have some questions regarding the COVID CARES Act funding for transit. Can you give us a definitive date or a through period in terms of how long will fares be suspended? Or can we get an assurance that they would be suspended through 2021, given it is not yet safe to collect fares? Also,
Let me answer that one, then I'll take your next one if I can.
Okay, for sure. And
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead. You can ask many. Go ahead. You want to ask more? Go ahead.
the other question I have is how much of that federal money did the DDOT department get? Because I do understand that SMART and DDOT have a split. And then lastly, I just want to be on record to say that I oppose Proposal N because it is fiscally irresponsible for the city of Detroit at this moment. And I'll leave you to answer the questions that I've asked.
That's the great thing about democracy. So as far as when the fares are going to go into effect, here's what we have done. The reason we suspended the fares, and did it on March 17th when the drivers showed me what they were dealing with, there were too many citizens coming through. And my point is this: if 1 out of 50 or 100 people in Detroit has COVID right now, which they do, and you're taking in 200 people a day on the bus, and they're all stopping at the fare box and putting droplets on you, our drivers were way too much at risk. And so we shut down the front door in the fares to protect the safety of our drivers. The drivers and we have agreed, and City Council just agreed, that we are purchasing and we've placed the order for protective windows around the driver's seat. It's essentially a plastic door that will open and that they can communicate through, but protects them from the public. Those are supposed to be in late this year. When they are installed,
yes,
the drivers are safe. We'll collect the fares, and the drivers union and I have an agreement that we won't collect the fares until they are installed. So I'm going to guess, if not late this year, the early part of next year, when those safety doors are installed.
Respectfully, Mayor, that's I was more so asking if we could get assurances that fares will be suspended through 2021 until there's a declaration from the appropriate health departments that it's safe to collect fares as well too. I just think it's dangerous to consider that at the end of this year.
So we are going to go to a cashless system. So our health department signs off on everything, but we'll go to a cashless system. The drivers will be protected. And the point at which they are protected, we'll start collecting fares again. And I've been working hand in hand with the ATU union leadership on this plan. So we're cleaning the buses with their protocols. We've got masks on the buses, which with their cooperation. And we will start collecting fares when it's safe for the drivers. And I'm pretty confident you'll see the drivers union and I agree on that date.
Thomas, you are next.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, thank you for taking my call and thank you for having this meeting. I live in City Council District 4, and for 3 years, I have called the Forestry Department for them to cut down a city tree that's like leaning on my house. And each time they say, well, you're on the list, you're on the list. I really would like to get this tree cut down because not only do I live here, but my 2 daughters live here as well. And I'm just need a definitive person to talk to.
Okay, so is the tree between the sidewalk and the street?
Yes, and
right,
one time that I called, they said that an inspector did come out. So when I called back, they said, well, you're on the list. You know, that's vague. I need to know when will it get cut down?
I'm going to find out. We're taking down 3,000 a year, and normally this is not a complaint I get. Usually we're responsive on this. So if it's a dead tree between the sidewalk and the street, we will get it. If you give us your address offline, I will have somebody out there tomorrow to look at it and get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Betty, you are next. Go ahead, Betty.
Betty, you may have to unmute.
Betty, we will come back to you. Rick, you are next.
Good evening, Mayor Duggan. I appreciate you taking my question. I do think neighborhood improvement is essential But I'd like to know, one, is there any plan to focus on maybe homeowners or property owners that are already in the city and assisting them with um, what they need to ensure that their properties don't fall into a blighted situation and add to the problem? And then my second question would be, how are we partnering with the neighborhood businesses to ensure that they're also improving or participating in these improvement efforts? I know the Green Light Initiative, but even at the, green light stores in my neighborhood, there's still, significant crime, people selling drugs out of the store. So it's not enough if they're just going to put a green light up and then not, actively work to deter crime and provide a safe situation for their customers.
So you're right. So let me ask you, do you have a block club in your neighborhood?
We do.
Okay, are they active? Which district are you in?
Not very active. I'm in the Dexter and Davidson area in the city.
Okay, well, that's an area that we're starting to put some serious time into, because I think there's enormous potential there. So let me start with the first question. The bond issues themselves can't go to existing homeowners for their own homes. They have to go to capital improvements that are public. So we're going to have to spend them on publicly owned buildings or public nuisances. So there are other programs in the city that potentially could help an individual, but they are not extensive. The second question you ask is a really important one, and I know Arthur Jemison is leading this effort, and we're doing it neighborhood by neighborhood. What we have found is, in the neighborhoods where we have filled in a lot of vacant houses, people have moved in, we've seen storefronts open up. Because why? If you've got customers moving into the neighborhood, you want to have your business in that neighborhood. If they're moving out, you don't want to be there. So we've got to do exactly what you're saying. We've got to have enforcement. We also have something that we call the Strategic Neighborhood Fund, where you've seen what we did in transforming Livernois. We're doing it now on Grand River between Southfield and Losser. We're doing it on Kercheval near Van Dyke. We're doing it on McNichols near Livernois. We did it on Bagley and Mexican Town, and we are looking in the Dexter and Davison area now to do something there to try to create a corridor of businesses that support the residents. And so I'd say you're in Mona Ali's district in District 7, but I would say maybe you could get a little bit engaged with that block club. It is fascinating in the city. The areas that are coming back the fastest are the areas that have strong leadership in block clubs. That's just the truth. In many cases, neighborhoods have come back because of the force of personality of the leaders of the block club. And I hope we need to do more on our side, but if we could get some help from the neighbors, it would go that much faster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did I convince you?
Sort of.
All right. If you become block club president, I'll come to your meeting.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Betty, please unmute yourself. It's your turn.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Mayor. First of all, I want to say good evening and thank you for all the good work that's being done in the neighborhoods. I want to publicly thank Mona Ali for responding to the issues that we've had in our community. I am president for DeSoto Ellsworth Black Association, and she's doing a great job. And I never miss the opportunity to say that we are patiently waiting for new development to come to our area, Finkel and Livernois. And we're also waiting on our speed bumps. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had a meeting where you haven't brought up those two subjects. I am keenly aware of Finkel and Livernois and your speedos. So you've got our attention.
Okay, well, hey, I'm never going to miss the opportunity. Thank you.
This is what a great block club president does. Everybody in our administration knows about the speed humps and knows about the need to do something in that neighborhood because of the advocacy. And I'm not saying this lightly. It matters when we have block club leadership that's as passionate as this last caller.
Get ready to go, dear.
Hey, you're next.
Hello,
Hey, good evening.
this is Kathy Green from Barton Street. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
Good. How are you tonight?
Good. I sent you an email from the Greenway Heritage Conservancy about 10 days ago. It's a personal matter. If you could just take the time to look at it and respond, I would really appreciate it.
Okay.
And I also would like to let you know that Eva Torres is one of the greatest ever. She has come into our neighborhood and done remarkable things. She brought food distribution.
Okay.
She solved some of the border problems we had over here. She is a great person, and thank you for her.
All right. Either Eva's doing a great job or she's got a big family. I'm not sure which it is. But
No, we're not related.
all right. So this really is Eva's night. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll go
Please
see if I
respond
look
to
for that
my-
email. I haven't seen it, but I'll see if we can hunt it down.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sandra, you are next.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I live in District 2, and I have two questions. One, the final decision on Detroit Public Schools going back and what that looks like, is that solely in the hands of Dr. Vitti? And my second comment is, I have personally loved watching your briefings, and I didn't know I needed to see so many intelligent, well-spoken, data-driven African Americans on my TV set on a day-to-day basis. I didn't even know that that was something that myself and my kids needed to have in our lives. So thank you for that.
We've got an extraordinary amount of talent in this city, in the city administration and all the partners. And I've enjoyed doing those sessions where different people have come forward. So I'm glad to know somebody was watching.
Dr. Vitti, is he the sole point to
The
decide?
governor has set the standards for when the students come back and don't come back. Dr. Vitti will operate in that framework of the Detroit School Board. The elected school board will make that decision. The mayor doesn't have a role in that. But I got a feeling the governor will end up making the decision for the entire state.
Got you. And just real quick, when the governor says that Detroit rates are rising for COVID-19, is she talking about Detroit and the surrounding suburbs?
I think she's talking about the region, and you know, I just am enormously supportive of what the governor has done. But she's divided this state up into regions, and we are in a southeastern Michigan region. And I've pointed out to her repeatedly the Detroit numbers, I believe, are comparable to the outstate numbers that have been opened up to stage 5. And her point is, a lot of people move back and forth in this region, and she's treating us as a region. So I understand her position, but I'm gonna keep pushing. But the fact of the matter is, people in this city are safer because their neighbors are wearing masks, and that's been a really encouraging thing to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KT, you are next.
Yes, hi, my name is Katie Moreno Elst, and I'm in the Pingree Park area, the Burns Seneca Fisher Block Club. And I'm going to give a shout out to Malia Howard, and I'm going to share a lovely story about land bank that happened just yesterday. I've heard lots of criticism tonight, and I disagree. And that's my son, sorry. First and foremost, Maceo Benson from Land Bank and Rosaline Harper fought super hard for a resident in Pingree Park so that they could secure a side lot over an out-of-country investor. And they opened the investigation, and the Detroit resident won. And Malia was very helpful in it. Our block club president was helpful in it, and even Mary Sheffield's office. So I think, in general, I'd like to share a positive story that we've had with Land Bank in the Pingree Park area. And as of yesterday, that resident secured the side lot over the investor. So I'm thrilled, and I'm also very much for this proposal. I was happy to see the council go ahead and allow us to educate all of our neighbors and friends about it, because there's so many houses that could be rebuilt as well as taken down in our area, and we want new neighbors. So I am all for it. So thank you. Malia, you are awesome.
There's enormous potential, and I don't know if there's too many neighbors that have as many young children as your neighborhood. So I know you're not alone in that. It's very exciting to see what's happening in Pingree Park, and you're right. It's a neighborhood that will benefit enormously from the commitment to renovation, because there's a lot of houses in Pingree Park that don't have to be demolished, that can be saved. And now I know why Malia unmuted you.
A reminder, if you're joining by phone audio, please press *9 to raise your hand. Next is Nicole. You can speak. Nicole?
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm an organizer and a directly impacted person that lives in District 7 in Detroit. And I've just been sitting back listening to a lot of the feedback from residents. That's not occurring over here in District 7 at all. Like, we have people walking around that are not wearing masks. We have plenty of dilapidated houses that are just sitting up and being open. And I understand that the city is working as hard as they can on matters concerning housing and getting rid of this blight removal. But we also have a huge issue with water, particularly in my district and in District 1, and I believe District 3 or District 4. We have been pushing for a water affordability program since the early 2000s, and the city has done everything to give us backlash on it. We've now had it proven that the Bolton Headley Act did not apply to the situation that we were talking about. And I was wondering where all these fundings are coming, especially in light of COVID, where hand washing is the first line of defense for people. And there are people still in our city that don't have running water in their homes. What's going to be done about that? The restoration program is a start, but we need these people to be able to afford to pay their water rates long term. Otherwise, they just get off again.
So if you know anybody in this city that doesn't have running water by virtue of an unpaid bill, let us know. We will get out there. We have a program, and we have successfully addressed every single house since we started that program in March. And as you know, the governor has extended the moratorium to the end of the year. But we not only turned the water on, we went into 200 houses where the interior plumbing was so rotted that they couldn't have water. And we got the plumbers union to come out and did repairs and got the plumbing back on. But is Gary Brown here somewhere? So I'm going to have Gary Brown talk to you about the program.
Yeah. Okay.
If you know of anybody in this city, nobody in this city today should be without water because of ability to pay. If you know of somebody, let us know. I'll be out there. And let me ask the director of DWSD, Gary Brown, to address this.
Yeah.
Good evening, Gary. I do appreciate you stepping up, having the mayor have you step up and take that information. I do indeed know of people who are shut off. What I also do know that is in my neighborhood particularly, and I'm sure in other neighborhoods, we have a very diverse community. There are a large amount of people in my community that don't speak any English. I have yet to see any flyer distributed in my neighborhood, except for the ones that I distributed myself, nor have I saw any flyer distributed in the other neighborhoods where I've seen them that were only in English. They were not in Bengali or Arabic or Spanish.
Yeah, and I'll commit to you that if offline you give us the address of a house that doesn't have water, that I'll have it back on by Friday. And if you give us a location where we can drop off flyers in English, Spanish, Bengali, we will drop them off to you tomorrow. We certainly try to distribute them as broadly as we can, but we'd be more than happy to have you help us with that distribution of those flyers. And again, I will commit to anyone that knows of a house in the city of Detroit where people are living without water, we will get the water on within 24 hours. We just need to know where the address is so that we can reach out to that family and wrap our arms around them and make sure that they're being taken care of.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And will you commit also to a water affordability plan so that when after post-COVID, we won't have a huge number of people who are pushed into an affordability plan, assistance plan that they may not be able to afford?
Yeah,
we've already proved that Bolton Headley is not a factor anymore.
Yeah, that's intellectual discussion that we could have for hours on those legal points. I will say that I think that the Water Residential Assistance Program is an affordability program, that it gives the opportunity for every Detroiter in the city of Detroit not to see a disconnection. We do have $2.7 million sitting in a fund today. We will come out, we will do an assessment of your home. If you're 200% below the level poverty level, 60% of our residents fit that category. We will come out, we will assess your home at our cost. We will fix the plumbing issues to get the customer to an average bill. We will give you a monthly stipend. And most importantly, we will wipe out the arrears that are owed completely. I argue that that is an affordability program and that every Detroiter has an opportunity to take advantage of it.
Next, Bobby.
Yes, hi, Mayor. This is Bobby Johnson from Franklin Park. I'm the president of Franklin Park. You were supposed to, before this COVID-19 come and sit down at one of our my vice president's house for us to talk about the teen center. But my issue is the contracts that you have with who's ever cutting our side lots. They rip through our neighborhoods. They rip through the sidewalks. They're barely cutting them. They're very rude. They don't, half of the contractors don't appreciate the areas that they're cutting. They come through, they leave it even messier than it was with their half cutting. Then about our bulk pickup, we're running several days behind on bulk being picked up. And then if you call Mona and you tell her about, okay, I called her about someone illegally dumping, they said they were going to come on the side and pick it up. It's still there. So we're having a lot of problems over in District 7 with bulk pickup, with our lots being cleaned, with us getting our speed humps and everything.
Okay, well, the speed humps are a separate issue. We're prioritizing parks and schools, and I know every street in the city would like one, and we're putting them out as fast as we can. But as far as the bulk pickup and the illegal dumping, Ron Brundage, is Ron here? Ron Brundage, our DPW director, can talk to you, because I've heard bulk pickup issues in other parts of the city. Ron, will you let folks know what's happening, what they can do?
Good evening. Thanks for that comment. We have been hearing more complaints about bulk not being picked up, especially on the west side of the city, and we investigate every complaint that we receive. I would first just like to remind all of the citizens that are listening that we do have some guidelines in terms of what you can put out on your bulk day. With the recent storms that we've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we're seeing high volumes of tree debris that's being set out. And we just ask the residents, if possible, to try to bundle that tree debris and not have it longer than 4 feet, because that's the requirement that our contractor has in terms of what they have to pick up. But if it's not a requirement, or if it's beyond what our contractor is required to pick up, you can still notify us, because we have city crews that can still come out and pick up that debris. Same thing with illegal dumping. The city has our Improved Detroit website, our Improved Detroit application. We strongly encourage all residents to use the application. We monitor it on a daily basis. Any illegal dump complaints that are entered into that particular application, we commit to getting out there and getting it addressed within 5 days. The reason that we allot for 5 days is that in some cases we like to see if we can identify the person that's responsible. So we'd like for the Building and Safety Engineering Department to first go out and inspect the situation to determine if a responsible party can be identified. But then once that occurs, then information is provided back to my department and we get that cleared up. So if there's any specific locations that you've complained about and you feel haven't been cleaned up yet, if you can give that information to Mona, we can certainly get in contact with you tomorrow to get that addressed.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am very well. This is Cynthia A. Johnson. I've got a couple of concerns.
Go ahead. This is State Representative Cynthia A. Johnson.
Yes, it is. Good to see you smile. Keep that smile on your face while I tell you about
I know that voice in my sleep. Go ahead.
All right. Well, first I'm going to make a statement. I would love to see the city be more responsive when it comes to bulk pickup and when it comes to dumping. And you're not as responsive as you can be. And I know this. Let me just say this, that over 3 weeks ago, I spoke with Malia Howard, who I love very much, but it ain't got nothing to do with love right now. We need to do our work in the city of Detroit, pick up bulk when it's supposed to be. And as far as the dumping and people dropping things in front of an abandoned house, that happens all the time. People cut the branches and they put it right in front of an abandoned house, and of course they don't bundle it.
Right.
So, and this is happening all over the city. If you guys would just go throughout the whole city and just pick up whatever you see. If it's on the ground, pick it up. I don't understand why that's so complicated. And the city looks so blighted because in part, that's such a big problem. So I'm still working on House Bill 4454. It's been passed out of the House. It now sits in the Senate's committee. I need your help to push them to bring that legislation up out of committee so that we can have some teeth for when these dumpers dump. When the dumpers dump, they have to pay the cost. And I think my time is up.
Representative, of course, I support your legislation 100%. We can spend a lot of time chasing around after the same dumpers. And the police department has done a nice job in seizing vehicles of a number of dumpers that we've caught. But what you're saying is, I've heard more complaints about bulk pickup in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last few years. There's no doubt there's something going on here. And Mr. Brundage and I are going to dig deeper into it and find out what's going on and get to the bottom of it.
Next is Tristan. Tristan, you may unmute yourself.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. My first question, I have several questions. My first question is, my family has been trying to buy a property from the land bank in section or district 4. The land bank have had it listed for 3 years. The property has been degraded and it's not available for purchase. So I would like some more information on why that property has not been available for at least my family to purchase it.
Have you talked to your district manager?
No, I have not contacted my district manager.
District 4?
District 4.
Yeah, so if we can get your address offline, Letty Azar will dig into that and find out if it's stuck in the bureaucracy or there's a reason that there's a title issue. Sometimes we have title issues. We can't sell things because we don't have clear title and the like. We need to look at that particular property and see what the issue is, and Letty can get you that answer.
Okay.
Lost you. Go ahead. Breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry. I was saying, secondly, what was the current status for the Wayne State program that you had for Detroit High School graduates?
Wayne State, as far as I know, is continuing to give free undergraduate tuition to Detroit. Detroit is a graduate, aren't they? Last I knew, President Wilson. It's not something I do directly, but I was with President Wilson when he announced it. As far as I know, that program's still in effect. So Conrad Mallett's here. He seems quite sure it's still in effect.
We have time for 2 more calls. Deshaun?
How many have we got backed up?
Hello.
We can go a little bit more.
Okay.
Keep going. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead. Is that Sean?
Deshaun?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, this is Deshaun Hurt from Region Park Community Association in District 3. First, I'd like to say that I support Proposal N. I think it's a great opportunity for Detroit. But my concern is the increase in crime in our area. It's been a lot of speeding, crime, and gang activity that's actually been increasing. I mean, I don't know if it's showing up on the data, but I can tell you that.
It's showing up.
I can tell. Okay. Well, I know the people. I've been getting a lot of feedback from residents, and right now, this is probably the most dangerous I felt this area has been since I've been here 15 years. And unfortunately, the neighbors they're living in fear, and we know that fear could be dangerous for everyone. So I just wanted to point that out. And I was hoping that it's something that can be done on a higher level.
So next week, Chief Craig is going to be in this session and going to talk about exactly what's going on. But we are seeing a spike in crime at a rate we haven't seen in 4 or 5 years in the last few months. And the chief and a lot of our partner agencies are pulling together a plan to work on it. I'm going to let the chief address that next week.
Thank you.
Jim, you are next.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jim Ward. Can you hear me?
Ken, keep going.
Okay. I don't know how much you heard. My name is Jim Ward. I'm president of the Green Acres Woodward Community Radio Patrol. I don't have a question other than a shout out to thank you personally for the support you've given our community radio patrol and the citywide radio patrols. I want to give a shout out to Kim Tandy and Sean Davis, to Commander Sims, Captain Tucker, Sergeant Bledsoe, and Officer Mike Crowder. Just a thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night.
Wait, don't leave yet. Sir, how long have you volunteered to run that radio patrol?
I've been on the patrol for 30 years, and I've been president for 20.
Your neighborhood is a much better place to live because of what you have done the last 20 years, and every one of your neighbors would second that. And this is what makes the city great. So thank you for all that you have done.
Thank you.
Beatrice, you are next.
Hi, I want to thank you, Mayor, for everything you've done for the city. And our governor is doing right by us with wearing masks and everything else. And I wish you would not take out the green light. I love this green light. It helps, get some of these criminals off the street. And I do want to shout out to Eva Torres and her crew. They're doing a great job since she got elected to it. And no, she's not related to us, but she is a great person, along with our councilwoman and Stephanie Chang and Rashia. Everybody's doing a great job. And I love my Detroit. I've been here will be 68 years next month, and I'm not leaving. My children want me to leave, but I am not leaving. So thank you for all the great job that you're doing for us.
All right. Well, maybe your kids will come back.
Yeah. My daughter. Yeah. Hopefully. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ethelyn, you are next.
Good evening. I'm calling from the United Block Club. We are at Epworth, Epworth, Timon, West Warren area. And the reason I'm calling is I am in District 6 with Eva Torres and Councilperson Raquel. They're great people. They really get things done. I want to thank her for getting that illegal dump site done today. My question for, yeah, it was done today. It is horrible. It was so much illegal dumping on this particular vacant lot that it has taken almost two, it's like a double vacant lot. It's really, really bad. I hope it gets picked up really, really soon because it's really bad. And I just want to comment on why there's so much trash and debris and boards, because when people are cleaning out these houses that you're pushing us to buy, and they're cleaning them out, and they're doing the best they can. Some people are paying other people and they just drag the stuff out to the curb. They're not bundling up. So I want to make a comment on that. And my reason for my call is I have a couple of vacant lots that I do cut, but because when the storms and debris, there's tree debris, and it's too heavy for me to lift or pay someone to pick up. So when your contractors come and cut the vacant lot, they don't cut where the tree trunks are. So now it's weeds and debris and grass growing in between all these trees that have fallen, and it's a mess, and it's growing up around my house. So who do I call? Do I report that on an Improved Detroit app?
Does Eva know your address?
Not my personal address, but she knows where I live.
Okay, that's good enough. So Brad Dick, if you're going to make the effort to clean those lots, the least we can do is come out and get that debris. So Brad Dick from the General Services Department is going to call you tomorrow.
Okay.
And come out and take care of that.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for what you're doing.
It's Brad, B-R-A-D-D-I.
D-I-C-K. Once you meet him once, you'll never forget him.
I can email him. Does he have an email address?
You just talk to Eva. Eva and Brad are friends. He'll be
Okay. All right. Got it.
sitting
Thank
here
you.
now, and he'll be there. Okay.
Thank you. Next is Norma. Norma, please unmute your line. We'll come back. Next is Eugene.
Hello. Hi, Mayor Duggan. This Eugene and Georgia Cole, LaSalle Beautiful. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. And we just wanted to give a shout out today for our MPOs at the 10th. We've been having a lot of bad traffic that they're having an Indy 500 over in LaSalle Beautiful right there at LaSalle Pingree and Philadelphia. They're doing wheelies. And the MPOs really stepped up today, and they came out because of all of the illegal dumping and things that are going on over there, abandoned cars and different stuff. So we just want to give a shout out to the 10th precinct for that, and also to the 3rd precinct. Always just want to give a shout out to Captain Cox and all the crew over there for everything that they're doing. Thank you guys for everything.
I think the neighborhood police officers was one of the smartest things that Chief Craig did, because they can pay attention to these kind of issues, and I'm glad to hear they were responsive.
Yes, they are. Thank you. Our neighbors, thank you.
All right.
Last call.
Last question. All right, go ahead.
Is Norma. Norma, can you unmute yourself?
Cut them off. Norma, are you there?
Norma's not with us any longer.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're doing this a week from now. It's District 3's night, so I will do a short version of things specific to District 3, and then Chief Craig will address crime issues citywide, and we'll take your questions a week from now. Thank you very much for joining us.